If you're over 50, here's something most people don't realize until it's too late. If you claim Social Security at 62 instead of waiting to 70, you're giving up $1,600 a month for the rest of your life. Over the next 25 years, that's nearly $500,000. And once you claim, you can't undo it. That's just one of the 7 irreversible mistakes you can make that can ruin your finances in 2026. Let me show you the other 6. If you're over 50, the next 5 years are the most critical financial window in your life. Not because you're running out of time, but because the decisions you make right now, or don't make for that matter, will determine whether you retire comfortably or spend your 70s and 80s worried about money. I've been working with families in this exact stage of life for over 25 years, and I see the same 7 mistakes over and over again. Some of these cost tens of thousands of dollars. Others can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And most are irreversible. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through all 7, why they matter, and exactly what you need to do in 2026 to avoid them. Let's get straight to it. Mistake number 1 is you're not maximizing your catch-up contributions. If you're 50 or older, the IRS lets you contribute more to your retirement accounts than younger workers. For 2026, that's an extra $7,500 into your 401k and an extra $1,000 into your IRA. That means if you're 50, you can put away $31,000 into your 401k and $8,000 into your IRA every single year. And if you're married and you're both over 50, that's $62,000 into your 401ks and $16,000 into your IRAs. Now, here's why this matters. Let's say you're 52 years old and you plan to retire at 65. Hey, that's 13 years. If you max out your catch-up contributions for those 13 years and your investments grow at 7% annually, you'll have an extra $700,000 in your retirement accounts by the time you retire. If you don't, you're leaving money on the table, and you can't go back and make up for lost years. The IRS doesn't let you contribute to prior years. So every year you skip this, that opportunity is gone forever. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tim, I already contribute to my 401k. Isn't that enough? Maybe it is. But most people I work with are contributing 6 to 10% because that's what they've always done, or that's exactly what their employer matches. And you know, that's just fine if you're 35. But when you're 52 and retirement is 13 years away, you need to start maxing out. Here's the reality. If you're making $200,000 a year and you're in the 24% tax bracket, every dollar you put in your 401k saves you 24 cents in taxes. So that $31,000 contribution saves you $7,440 in taxes this year. And if you're in the 32% bracket, that saves you $9,920. Folks, that's real money. So here's what you need to do. Log into your 401k account this week. Check out your contribution rate. If it's not set to max out by the end of the year, increase it. And if you're married, have your spouse do the same thing. This is the easiest high-impact move you can make in 2026. Mistake number 2 is claiming Social Security at 62 because you can. This is one of the most expensive mistakes people make, and it's irreversible. Here's how Social Security works. You can start claiming as early as 62. But if you do, your benefit is permanently reduced by about 30% compared to waiting until full retirement age, which is 67 for most people that are probably watching this. And if you wait until 70, your benefit increases by 8% per year after your full retirement age. So let's put some numbers together on this. Let's just say your full retirement age benefit is $3,000 per month. If you claim at 62, you'll get about $2,100 per month. If you wait until 70, it's about $3,720 per month. That's a $1,620 difference every single month. Over 20 years, $388,000. Now, I know what you're thinking. But if I claim at 62, I get an extra 8 years of payments before age 70. Doesn't that make up for it? Well, not if you live past your early 80s. And if you're a college-educated professional in good health, there's a good chance you may live until your 90s. Women especially. So here's the reality, folks. If you claim at 62 and live till 90, you'll collect about $700,000 in total benefits. If you wait until 70 and you live till 90, you're going to collect almost $900,000 in benefits. That's a $200,000 difference. And that's just for one person. If you're married, the decision gets even more important because of survivor benefits. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse gets the higher of the two benefits. So if you claim early and your benefit is lower, your spouse is stuck with that lower benefit for the rest of their life. Now, I'm not saying everyone should wait until 70. There are situations where claiming early makes good sense. If you're in poor health, you need the income, or if you have a shorter life expectancy, claiming early might be the right move. But most people claim at 62 because they're retiring at 62 and they think they need the money. But here's where the mistake happens. Because if you have other assets, a 401k and a brokerage account, you can live off those assets for a few years and let your Social Security benefit grow. That's the strategy. Use your retirement accounts to bridge the gap between 62 and 67 or 62 and 70 and let your Social Security max out. So here's what I want you to do. Go to ssa.gov and create an account if you haven't already. Look at your estimated benefits at 62, 67, and 70. Run the numbers. How long do you need to live for waiting to really pay off? And if you're married, factor in those survivor benefits. This is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make, and most people spend more time researching the purchase of a new car than they do this. Don't be one of those people. Mistake number 3, not converting to a Roth IRA before your required minimum distributions start. This is a strategy that most people haven't heard of, and it can save you 6 figures in taxes over a lifetime. Here's the setup. Right now, most of your retirement savings are probably in traditional 401ks and IRAs. That money has never been taxed. And at age 73, the IRS forces you to start taking required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Those distributions are taxed as ordinary income. Here's the problem, though. When you add the RMDs to your Social Security, your pensions, if you have one, and other income, you can easily get pushed into a higher tax bracket in retirement than you were during your working years. I see this all the time. Someone retires at 65, their income drops. They're now in a 22% bracket. Then at 73, the RMDs kick in and suddenly they're back to a 24 or a 32% bracket, and they stay there for the rest of their lives. Now here's the strategy. Between the time you retire and the time RMDs start, you have a window. Let's say you retire at 62 and RMDs start at 73. That's 11 years. During those 11 years, your income is lower. Maybe you're living off savings. Maybe you're doing some part-time work, but you're not pulling a full-time salary. This is the golden window to do Roth conversions. Here's how it works. You take the money out of your traditional IRA, pay the taxes on it at current lower rates, and move it into a Roth IRA. Now the money grows tax-free forever. And when you take it out in retirement, you pay 0 in taxes. Doesn't count to your RMDs. So let's just say you're 65 and you're retired and your taxable income is $80,000 a year. You're in the 22% tax bracket. You could convert $20,000 from your traditional IRA to a Roth, pay $4,400 in taxes, and now that $20,000 is growing tax-free. You do that every year for 8 years, and you've moved $160,000 into your Roth. By the time you're 73 and RMDs kick in, you've reduced the size of your traditional IRA, which means your RMDs are lower, which means you stay in the lower tax bracket. And all that money in the Roth is growing tax-free and can be withdrawn tax-free. This is one of the most powerful tax strategies available, and most people never do it because they either don't know about it or they feel it's too much of a hassle. Now here's the catch. You have to pay the taxes on the conversion in the year that you do it. So, you need cash to pay the tax bill. And you need to be strategic about how much you convert each year so you don't push yourself into a higher tax bracket. This is where modeling comes in. You need to run the numbers to figure out how much you can convert each year without triggering a big tax hit. And that's exactly what we do in our planning sessions. Okay, I know this is a lot to track. Catch-up contributions, Roth conversions, Social Security timing. Hey, and we're only 3 mistakes in. So I've put together a start-of-the-year checklist that walks you through every one of these decisions step by step. It's the same checklist I review with my clients every January to make sure nothing gets missed. You can grab it using a link in the description below. All right, let's keep going. Mistake number 4, not planning for the Medicare enrollment window. If you're still working at 65 and you're covered by your employer's health insurance, you might think you can just delay Medicare. And you can. But you have to be very careful about your timing, because if you miss your enrollment window, you could face penalties for the rest of your life. So here's how this works. Your initial enrollment period for Medicare starts 3 months before you turn 65 and ends 3 months afterwards. It's a 7-month window. If you're still working and covered by a group health plan with 20 or more employees, you can delay Medicare Part B without a penalty. And as soon as you retire or your employer coverage ends, you have 8 months to enroll in Part B. If you miss that window, you pay a 10% penalty on your Part B premiums for every 12-month period you're eligible but didn't enroll. And that penalty lasts for the rest of your life. So let's just say you retire at 66 and your employer coverage ends, and you forget to sign up for Part B. 2 years later, you realize your mistake and you enroll. You're now paying a 20% penalty on your Part B premium forever. If the standard premium is $185 a month, you're now paying $222 a month. That's an extra $444 a year, every year for the rest of your life. Over 25 years, that's $11,000 in penalties. And here's the other issue. If you're on COBRA after you retire, that doesn't count as employer coverage. So your 8-month window starts when your employer coverage ends, not when COBRA ends. A lot of people get this wrong. They retire, go on COBRA for say 18 months, and then they enroll in Medicare. By then, they've missed their window. So here's what you do. If you're approaching 65, mark it on your calendar. 3 months before your 65th birthday, decide whether you're enrolling in Medicare or you're delaying. If you're delaying because you're still working, make sure your employer plan qualifies as creditable coverage. And when you do retire, enroll in Medicare within 8 months. Don't wait. This is one of those things that seems simple but trips people up all the time. Mistake number 5 is retiring without a sequence of returns buffer. This is a risk most people don't even know exists. Here's the problem. Let's just say you retire with $1 million in your 401k. You plan to withdraw 4% a year, which is $40,000. It's a classic rule of thumb. Now, if the market goes up every year, you're fine. But what if the market crashes in year 1 or 2 of your retirement? Let's just say you retire in January and by December the market's down 30%. Your $1 million is now worth $700,000, but you still need to withdraw $40,000 just to live on. Now, you're withdrawing $40,000 from a $700,000 portfolio. That's a 5.7% withdrawal rate. And when the market does recover, you have less money invested, so you don't recover as much. This is called sequence of return risk. And it's one of the biggest threats to a retirement plan. The solution is simple. Keep a cash buffer. Before you retire, set aside 2 to 3 years of living expenses in a cash or short-term bonds. So if you need $80,000 a year to live on, keep $160 or $240 in cash. That way, if the market crashes your first few years of retirement, you're not forced to sell. Before you retire, set aside 2 to 3 years of living expenses in cash or short-term bonds. You live on the cash buffer, let the market recover, and then replenish the buffer when things stabilize. This one can make a difference between your money lasting 30 years or running out at 80. And it's something you need to set up before you retire, not after. Mistake number 6, not stress testing your retirement plan against inflation and longevity. Most people build a retirement plan based on best case assumptions. They assume a 7% return, 2% inflation, and they'll live till 85. And if all those things happen, you're fine. What if they don't? What if inflation is 4% instead of 2%? What if you live to 95 instead of 85? What if the market only returns 5% instead of 7? Any one of those changes can blow up a retirement plan. And most people don't find out about this until it's too late. This is why we stress test every client's plan against multiple scenarios. We run it through thousands of different market conditions, good markets, bad markets, 2008 style crashes. We test with 3% inflation, 4% inflation, 5% inflation. We test assuming they're going to live to 90, 95, heck, even 100. And then we see how many times you run out of money. If it's more than 10%, we need to adjust the plan. Maybe you need to save more. Maybe you need to retire a year later. Maybe you need to adjust your spending in retirement. But the point is, you know before you retire, not after. Because once you retire, your options shrink. You can't go back and save more. You can't undo 10 years of withdrawals. So here's the reality. If you're planning to retire in the next 5 years and you haven't stress tested your plan, you're flying blind. And this isn't something you can really do with an online calculator. You need a professional tool. You need professional tools and someone who knows how to model correctly. That's exactly what we do in our strategy sessions. Mistake number 7, neglecting your estate plan. Most people think estate planning is just writing up a will. It's not. It's about making sure your assets go where you want them to go, your healthcare wishes are honored, and your family isn't left with a mess. And if you haven't updated your estate plan in the last 5 years, there's a really good chance it's outdated. Here's what I see all the time. Someone gets divorced, then remarries, never updates their beneficiaries. So when they die, their ex-spouse gets their 401k instead of their current spouse. Or someone names their kids as beneficiaries on their IRAs, but the kids are now adults and they have their own families, and they would have been better off with a trust. Or someone never sets up the power of attorney or healthcare directive, and they have a stroke, and their family has to go to court to get authority to make their medical decisions for them. These are all avoidable problems, their own goals. Here's what you need to do. First, review all your beneficiary designations: 401k, IRA, life insurance, brokerage accounts. Make sure they're current. Second, make sure you have a will, a power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. If you don't get one done this year. Third, if you have significant assets, say over $1 million, talk to an estate planning attorney about whether a trust makes sense for you. It can help you avoid probate, protect your assets, and give you more control over how your money is distributed. And fourth, talk to your family. Tell them where the documents are. Tell them who the advisors are. Tell them what your wishes are. Because the worst time to figure this out is after you're gone. Here's reality, folks. If you're over 50, you're in the most important financial decade of your life. The decisions you make in the next 5 years will determine whether you retire with confidence or you spend your 70s and 80s worried about money. And the families who win at this are the ones who treat this decade like a business project. They don't wait. They don't assume everything will just work out. They make proactive decisions, stress test their plans, and adjust as they go. The families who lose are the ones who assume that they have more time than they really do. You don't have to be a financial expert. You just need to know which decisions matter and when to make them, or someone that does. And right now in 2026, these 7 mistakes are the ones that matter most. Now, if you're looking at these thinking, I'm not sure where we stand on these, need help running the numbers, that's exactly what we do. We help families in this exact stage navigate these decisions every single day. You can schedule a 15-minute strategy call with me using the link in the description. We'll look at your specific situation, figure out which of these 7 mistakes apply to you, and make sure you're not leaving money on the table. No pressure, no sales pitch. Just a conversation about what you can still control. And hey, if you found this helpful, make sure you grab the start of the year checklist I mentioned. It covers all 7 of these mistakes plus dozens of other planning questions you should be asking yourself in 2026. The link to that is in the description as well. Hey, I'm Tim Gardner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.